Welcome into the PHNX Sports Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. I'm your host, Makayla Perkins, and joining me today is Derek Montilla, Saul Bookman, and the legendary Espo. I didn't go with your full name today. I hope that's okay.
Why the fuck is he legendary?
Nobody knows my full name.
Only one of us can be legendary today. It's Espo.
Also, where's the voice? I want to hear the voice. I want to
do the voice.
Hello. I want to hear that.
It was
now.
Australian.
I
it
was
was
doing
an
an Australian
Australian
accent like 5
But it
minutes
sounded
ago.
like Julia Child.
Okay, hold on. Ready?
Basting a turkey.
It's
No, Cleo. Condensation.
It sounds more like
so bad.
what is it? Silence
Gotta
of the
get some
Lambs?
shrimp on the
Oh my
bobby.
You should, if you like ever go on a
Sure.
date with a guy and you really don't like him, just start using that
Start.
voice.
Do that voice
And
the
they'll be like,
whole
okay.
time.
go to the bathroom and then come back and just
Wrap
start
it
doing
up.
that the whole time.
I
Yeah.
can do
The
that.
lotion in the basket.
Well, happy hump day, everybody. How's your Wednesday going? I have to be honest, mine's not going well. I'm really disappointed. Do you guys want to know why?
Murder?
Yeah, it has to do with murder. Okay, so today
There's
they
been a
figured out
murder.
who the Zodiac Killer is, but the Zodiac Killer apparently died 3 years ago, and I'm really upset about it because
R.I.P.
I love murder, and I want to know why he murdered people, and we'll never get to
The
know.
producer's going like this. Don't say R.I.P.
Can I
Okay,
not
gotcha.
say I love murder on air? Is that bad?
Yes, you can.
No.
And we'll be taking that clip and replaying it multiple times for the remainder of your time here at PHNX.
If any of us go missing, we know who did it.
All afternoon or
That's
all
my
morning. It's
fault.
been how much she loves murder. That's just what she's been
Okay,
saying.
but we're never going to know why he killed all those people. Isn't that upsetting?
No, because he's crazy.
All
That's a
right.
good enough
I guess
reason
if
for
you,
us.
If you do go crazy, though, Mac Attack is a pretty cool serial killer phrase, right?
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
serial
So
killer
look
name.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, if I start murdering people, call
Yeah.
me Mac Attack.
Oh my God.
All
right.
She's
Mac
gonna
All
Attack
start-
right,
killer.
okay.
She's gonna start murdering people just so people could call her Mac
Yeah.
Attack. Stop.
This is going
Stop
down a dark
encouraging
path.
this nonsense.
All right. Well, we've got a pretty fun topic for you guys today on the PHNX Sports Podcast. But before we get into that, let's do our Valley Sports temperature check. And I think we have to start with the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals are the only undefeated team in the NFL right now. Be honest, Saul. Did you expect the Cardinals to be undefeated heading into week 5?
No, not even close. I definitely did not. I had them losing in week 1, so I've been pleasantly surprised. I think I was more surprised at their performance this past Sunday because I feel like that gave them a sense of legitimacy after the fluke field goal against the Vikings, the struggling against the Jaguars, being down at half by a 109-yard kickoff field goal return, and this last week was like, oh, this is what this team could be all about, and I think that's exactly what has got this whole city and the state energized for Cardinals football.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and then now going into week 5 against the 49ers, they're favored to win against the 49ers too. Do you think that they can go 5-0?
I mean, I'd be shocked if they didn't. The 49ers, they have a strong running game, but they have questions at quarterback, as they have the last couple of years. Jimmy Garoppolo, don't know if he's going to play or not. And then Trey Lance might be getting his first start, or he might not. You know, there's a whole bunch of head games going on over there. But I would expect the Cardinals to come out and take care of business, especially at home. It's been a while. They played the Vikings like 3 weeks ago at home, and this is only their second home game of the season in week 5. So I'm sure they're going to be energized for that.
If it's Lance starting at quarterback, they're going to put the Trey in Trey Lance. There's going to be a lot of field goals for the 49ers at best if they score.
Well,
Okay.
I was going to ask Saul, who are you more worried about, them starting, Garoppolo or Trey Lance?
I don't think either. Both of them are getting done in, so it doesn't
All right.
matter.
I like that confidence. See, that's the confidence of an undefeated team.
We love that. Do you feel like Cardinals fans feel the same confidence? Do you
Yes.
think that this has energized this entire fan
Yeah,
base?
I think so, because the one major thing right now is that you're seeing it from Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray is taking his game to another level like we all hoped he would last year.
Mhm.
And that is the major difference, is that you know that the offensive side of the ball is in good hands. And we haven't necessarily felt like that, especially with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler, and their struggles the last couple of seasons. And I think they've gotten over that. I think Cliff has gotten over that. And I just think that they're on a roll right now. And Kyler said that he is seeing the field as good as he ever has in his entire life.
Yeah.
And he's showing that on the field.
And I think Kyler Murray is like the key piece here, because even today in media availability, he was saying, we're winning, and winning is what I'm used to.
Yes.
Obviously, he had a successful collegiate career. And so, the first couple NFL seasons didn't get off to the best start for Kyler. So now that he's back to the winning ways, I think that just injects the confidence that he needs to have in order for the entire team to be
He
successful.
lost like 4 games combined in high school and college.
Yeah.
Like together. And he won like 3 straight state championships. He almost won a national championship at Oklahoma if it weren't for, Alabama. And then he gets to the Cardinals and he loses his ass. Like, it's just crazy. He's gotten over that. He's understood what it takes to get to another level, and he's produced on the field.
I think you got to give Chase Edmonds and James Conner credit, too, for leaving some of the pressure on Kyler by having a strong running game this year as well.
I would combat that by saying it's more on Rodney Hudson than it is those two running backs, because
fair.
Rodney Hudson at the center position has made a world of difference for that entire offensive line. And without him in the fold, as we saw the previous 2 seasons, that running game was very sporadic, had moments, but it wasn't as good as it is this year.
And it's like you said on the postgame show about personnel. It's really all about personnel and who they put around Kyler. Kyler is a winning quarterback. He is a talented, gifted athlete. The difference is the personnel. It even comes down to the kicker, Matt Prater, that you can't say enough about. Their ability to put up points consistently, even when drives end, especially when they're 40, 50 yards out and they can still kick a field goal and know consistently that they're going to make it and get those 3 points, I think just changes the confidence level of the play calling and everything about this team.
Yeah, they trust their roster. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, obviously the Cardinals being undefeated is super exciting. What's not exciting, however, is the Diamondbacks.
Sorry, Derek.
In probably what I would consider the most D-backs fashion possible, they blew their chances of getting the first overall pick in this coming draft by a walk-off homer in the very last game of the season. Derek, why?
I don't know why. I wish someone would tell me why. I mean, I get it. This team has actually been winning in the second half just enough to put them in this position, and I knew it was going to happen. I knew they were going to inevitably play themselves out of the first pick. It just came down to such a close decision. They actually tied with the Baltimore Orioles. The rule would be that they go to last year's record, but surprisingly enough, the Orioles and the D-backs tied last year. They have the same record last year. So the decision goes to the 2019 season, which, by the way, I don't think is right. I think they should play. I think they should play a 1-game playoff game, and the team that loses gets the number 1 pick.
That or an Anchorman style rumble.
There you go.
Either way,
I'm always in favor of that. You know
What
me.
about a home run derby to decide the winner?
I love that. Again,
Let's do it.
I thought the Rockies and D-backs were just going to have a foot race for the final 3 games. So I was surprised to see them actually play baseball.
How do you not go into that final inning and just bat 3 pitchers?
I will say again, Lavallo, when asked about the final game not starting Ketel Marte, Lavallo said he was sitting him for rest, which was the most hilarious answer I've ever heard from this team yet this season. I felt like they weren't trying to put their best lineup out there. It just goes to show that the young guys don't stop trying. They're out there for an opportunity and they want to shine no matter what, right? Especially someone like Josh Van Meter, who is still looking for a consistent place on this team and has improved. But again, wrong time, pal. I needed them to lose this game.
It does remind me of the Cardinals the year before they drafted Larry Fitzgerald. They go into the last game of the season. Yeah. If they lose to the Vikings, they get the number 1 pick overall. This is the Eli Manning draft, Phillip Rivers. So there's quarterbacks
Ben
sitting
Roethlisberger.
Ben Roethlisberger.
They need a quarterback, and they go in, and Josh McCown throws a miracle Hail Mary to beat the Vikings and drop them from 1 to 3 in the draft.
Oh, Arizona.
But it worked out all right for the Cardinals. So there is hope for Diamondbacks fans.
Yeah, there is. And I think that's the thing about the MLB draft. You never know who the team is going to take in first place. We're a big fan of Elijah Green, but there's a chance that he could maybe drop to second in the draft depending on the Orioles' needs.
You were saying
that was my other fear, was that the Diamondbacks were going to get the first overall pick
and then
not take Elijah
Green. Absolutely. Because that's a very Diamondbacks thing.
You were saying that there's another highly rated prospect. He's a shortstop. Help me with his name. Sorry.
I forget right now off the top of my head. I think it's excuse me, but it's basically the Orioles' needs right now.
That was my point. Is the Orioles need a shortstop. So technically, all hope is not lost for Elijah Green.
It comes down to the MLB draft is so fickle. You never know what's going to happen even between now and when it happens. There's a collective bargaining agreement in between now and then. It ends right now. The current labor agreement ends on December 1st. So that could actually impact the draft. They do want to do a competitive balance, change the competitive balance in baseball, because more than half of the league has been out of the playoff hunt since May. So it's just incredibly boring to watch a lot of these teams that aren't in the race.
The Diamondbacks were out like by month 2.
Correct.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? And like, yeah, I understand this is like an abnormal season, but when you go into a year and understand like the haves have all the advantages and have all the salary to be able to pay whoever, however much they want, and the have-nots have to struggle for years and years to try and find the perfect chemistry of player and, you know, minimum veteran to give yourself a chance just to make the playoffs. It's just a struggle to invigorate any of the fan bases into coming to the games. Like the stadium was completely empty this year, like empty, because there's nothing to play for.
Well, and I'll tell you, an interesting flip side to that is I've kind of been in awe with the Rockies having the record that they have of their stadium being so full, a division rival, right? And their stadium's like full almost every night.
It's because they're good at home.
They're good at home, but the other thing about it is their fans, their diehard fans, are mad about that because they feel like the fact that the stadium is full doesn't send the right message to ownership about the team.
Mm-hmm.
It sends the message that we'll still come watch games regardless of how good or bad this team is. And that's such a weird take to me. For me, it's depressing to watch Diamondbacks games as a fan, as someone that covers the team, and see on a given night 6,000 people in a stadium that seats 40,000, right? So
that's part of it. That ballpark's way too cavernous, and
Sure.
they've talked about that themselves. But wouldn't you rather spend a night out in Denver outside and in the Rocky Mountain air in the summer than go sit in a giant metal barn in Phoenix? That's the difference there too.
The airport hangar over there on Jefferson.
Also, like, you know, I know that the downtown district is trying to do their damnedest to make it like a hip place to go and hang out. But being in Denver, being right by all those bars and breweries and right by the 16th Street Mall, like, it's just a different hangout.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why people are always going to gravitate to that area to not only take in a ball game, but after the ball game's over, you can go across the street to the nightclub or the bar. Like there's so much going on. Whereas here, it's not like that.
Right,
It's almost a, you know, just a barren landscape on game nights sometimes because nobody wants to be in downtown Phoenix.
And that's why I don't think they will be in downtown Phoenix for the long run. I think the Diamondbacks will find a way to find a new home where there is more of an entertainment district and
That's a hot
dining
take.
and all that kind of stuff that they can do.
I mean, the Coyotes are looking in Tempe.
If there's a place to do it, Salt River Fields already kind of has that ability and capability. It is right by an entertainment district that's booming and expanding almost every, you know, couple of months. There's something new out there. You have Medieval Times. You have, you know, the
White Castle.
White Castle.
Who doesn't want to go to
through in Medieval Times?
Hey.
Like that was a center
Hey,
point.
tell me
You
that
been
a
to
night
that
out
club?
to Medieval Times and watching baseball
my
doesn't
gosh.
sound like a good
Hey,
night
what are
out.
you gonna do after the game? Going to
Medieval Times.
To
We're
be-
sitting in the green night section. What up?
to be fair, Derek just hit the baseball demo right on the nose.
Yeah,
there.
he
did.
I may not
Yeah,
go
he did.
hang out at Medieval Times, but the baseball crowd, they'll go hang out at
You
Medieval
want to go to the club at
Times.
Top of Talking Stick, or you want to go to like golf?
Top
or
golf?
whatever,
Nah,
Top golf?
we're going to
Nah,
Medieval
man,
Times.
Medieval Times.
I'm eating with my hands
Yeah,
tonight.
I want to see
Oh
some
my
fake
gosh.
jousting. Let's go.
Of course, the guy without sleeves says that.
Uh-huh.
I
I
mean,
mean, Cat and Caveman on Twitter, so you know.
but also the no sleeves is justified. That's probably my favorite jersey I've
It's
seen
the-
walk through the doors.
it's
Shout
the
out to the
GOAT.
Mercury, who
Shout out to the
are
GOAT.
playing in a playoff game tonight.
I will be present for it, so I'm excited.
Love
Let's
that.
do it. Let's get to the finals, ladies.
So the entire reason that we were gathered here today, full transparency, was because of a tweet. A specific tweet from Woj. Woj bombed us yesterday with a report that the Phoenix Suns are reluctant to offer the maximum rookie contract extension to DeAndre Ayton. How are you feeling about that, Espo?
It's posturing.
Mm.
This is agent speak. This was leaked. I'm 99% sure this came from Ayton's camp because negotiations haven't proceeded in the way that they've wanted, and it's putting pressure in their mind on the Suns organization to try to get a move to be made, a contract to happen here. And if you look at Suns Twitter, you look around at the internet, it's a calculated risk, but it seems to be the one that makes a lot of sense because now the dialogue, instead of, hey, I wonder if it's going to happen, is if the Suns don't do this, and whether that actually changes a basketball franchise's position as to if they're going to go to a full max for a guy or not, I don't know, but it definitely shows that the public opinion
Yeah.
is on Ayton's side in this. And to me, this isn't really about, in the end, will they pay him the max money or not? One way or another, DeAndre Ayton will have a max contract at the end of this, whether it's this year by the October 18th deadline, or if it's next year when he goes into restricted free agency and either the Suns sign him outright or somebody else offers him a max and they match it through a restricted through a offer, matching the offer sheet. So one way or another, DeAndre Ayton's going to get paid that, but it comes down to likely the language in the contract. How does he get those kickers to reach that $207 million that he wants, which is a 30% escalator is what they call it. And supposedly those are negotiable. They're not standard. So what MPJ in Denver got for those escalators isn't what Luka Doncic got for those escalators in Dallas. So there's likely some negotiating on that position. And the thing that worries me is this a case of the Suns posturing and trying to outsmart the room in a negotiation, or are they, as that tweet says and as the article that Woj wrote, really unwilling to pay that money? My guess is they're not unwilling to pay that money. It's how that money comes about that's the sticking point right now.
Is it?
I understand Long John Silver right here saying we have to make sure his playoff play continues. But I will say this: if you think you're going to replace DeAndre Ayton with another center in the league that's not a top 5 center, you're out of your mind, because he's a top 5 center, especially defensively. And offensively, he's looking to add to his bag. And all this stuff about Cat, let's just trade for Cat. Cat is garbage on the defensive side of the ball. And that's what that's how this team got as far as it did, is because DeAndre Ayton was the anchor of the defense, and he let everybody else thrive on the offensive side. That's why he's come into training camp talking about, I'm going to do more, because clearly I'm not respected enough to get the bag right off the bat because I sacrificed for the team. So F that, I'm going to do what I need to do to get my bag.
And rookie extensions are not full maxes. We're not talking, he's not all of a sudden going to get the max money that LeBron's getting. There's tiers to all this. Yep. And you've got a television contract coming up due for the NBA, which means the salary cap's going to increase. So again, this money looks even less in that light. So at some point, you just have to shut up and offer the money, or say you're done and blow up the chemistry that you built and move on. But they're not going to do that. They're going to eventually sign him. So why strain a relationship potentially is what bothers me.
The market dictated. The Suns had a chance to rectify this way earlier, and they didn't. They waited and waited and waited, and what happened was other teams got into the fold, by like the Nuggets by signing MPJ, and the OKC by signing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, when those things happened, the money moved, and it changed in a big way, and it created the scenario that DA is in fact a max player. If you didn't want that, you should have taken care of business. This is a theme right now with the Suns, right? And I'm not trying to bag on them, but that's 2 players now that they probably could have gotten for cheaper, but they didn't take care of business earlier, and now they're gonna have to pay more. With Mikal Bridges, they probably could have got him a little bit cheaper, but then other players that were equitable to Mikal got bigger deals. So now you're probably gonna have to pay him 4 years, 90 to 100 mil.
Right.
Like it wasn't even in that ballpark before. Now it is, because you waited. You got to take care of business. You got to pay the dudes what they are worth. And if you wait too long, the market is going to dictate it for you, and that's exactly what's happened.
Well, and then my thought process is if he does keep up that same play that he reached during the playoffs, isn't that going to end up costing them more at the end of the year as far as?
Well, in the end, a max is a max.
It's a max,
but the thing is, why strain the relationship? In these deals with rookie extensions, you're paying on potential anyways.
Okay.
Because most of these guys aren't proven. Luka's probably the closest to fully proven, and there's still question marks in his game in some people's mind.
Sure.
So when you're looking at it, you're paying on what you're projecting DeAndre Ayton to be. And that's what Denver did with MPJ. That's what Oklahoma City did with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And the Suns just need to pony up.
It's wild to me to think, like, waiting to see what he does in the regular season. Isn't the playoffs where you want to see the best out of a player? And he did step up and evolve and become like a different guy last
I
year.
guess I generally don't understand how it's gotten to this point. I don't think there's been anything on DeAndre Ayton's part that would dictate that this is the appropriate response. Like I just don't.
It's the inconsistency. It's the inconsistency in the regular season. The desire to want to see him break somebody's arm in the rim. It's the passion. It's all these intangibles that people don't think he had or didn't think he had until they saw it in the playoffs, and then they're like, "Oh, it's been here the entire time." And with the Suns, and this is honestly like it's a solid take, but it's the wrong take in my opinion. They are hesitant because they're like, "Well, is this really what we're going to get, or is this just because Chris Paul did what he did to make DeAndre Ayton as good as he is?"
But does it matter?
That's what I was going to say.
Especially if Chris Paul's going to be here.
You got Chris Paul for the next 3 years,
Right.
and then you're probably going to try and do something to rectify that Chris Paul situation when he does leave. Like, you got to pay DeAndre Ayton because you think that you're going to be able to develop him the way he is. And he has grown every single year. He's gotten better, especially defensively, every single year.
Yeah.
He's deferred to everybody else on the offensive side. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I look for him to average 20 and 10 this year easily because that's what everybody wants. And apparently that's the only way he can get respect and earn his money.
Well, and I guess like I'm just looking at this from like a simplistic point of view, but in my point of view, this is like a pro-con list. And in my, like, I think the pros far outweigh the cons. Like, if the reason you're delaying this is because of the inconsistency, but it goes back to Saul's point of him being a top 5 center in the league, and you're not going to be able to find anybody to replace him, why wouldn't you just give him the money?
I think there's hesitancy for what Saul said in terms of, you know, the potential inconsistency. And I also think the fact that he got suspended for 25 games plays a part in this.
Okay.
Because that's probably creating hesitancy in and of itself.
It's a good factor.
I'm not sure it should, though. I mean, it's not as if, I don't know. If we believe what he said and that it was a mistake or whatever, the kid's got to learn from it. If you don't believe that the guy hasn't learned from that, then why is he?
That feels like 5 years ago, like almost. You know what I mean?
Really does.
Well, that's what comes up in negotiations.
But I get that. But also, what am I more concerned about? A guy that took a substance that he knew he shouldn't have taken, or maybe accidentally took, or a guy that can never stay healthy and is barely ever on the court. And when he is on the court, he's good. But when he's not on the court, you know, like MPJ getting the money that he got changes everything.
Yes,
it really does.
Yeah.
That guy has been injured almost his entire career. He finally has a year where he plays the majority of the games, and he's good. But defensively, he's a black hole, and he's still got the max. Like, okay, now DA gets the max. That's just how it is.
I get that, but the Suns probably aren't thinking of it that way. They're probably looking at it as MPJ's his own thing. Denver's their own team.
Yeah, but DA's looking at it like, if Denver's going to give him the max and the Suns won't, I will find the max somewhere else.
And there is your problem right there, because I think they both wind up in the same spot in the end, but they're approaching it in odd ways. And if I'm the Suns, you're also negotiating against your own past and your perception of your franchise. This does not help you, especially because it went public. Because now it's, well, maybe the Suns didn't change. Maybe that's a narrative that becomes a problem with other players in the future. What if they sign Makayla to his extension? They don't sign DA to his extension this year. Yeah. What does that put on it? I mean, Saul and I went in 40 minutes deep on this earlier today on the PHNX Sun show. So if you want to go real deep and hear both of us, lay out why we think this is happening, go check that out.
You could have said that from the beginning. We wouldn't even have
to say here.
I would have.
Hot Saul is.
I didn't want to leave Makayla hanging on her show and just be like, just go listen to ours.
Thank you, Espo. You're so kind.
We have a side gig, so
All right, well, that was your Valley Sports temperature check. Before we get into our main topic of the day, I have to tell you guys about DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and they have a Week 5 offer that every football fan needs to jump on. New customers can bet just $1 on any NFL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. The last 0-0 tie in the NFL was in 1943, so, I mean, this is pretty much a no-brainer. DraftKings customers can also get skin in the game with the new...
Do you know what the best movie was that year?
What?
Casablanca.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Oh my God, she doesn't know what Casablanca
What is Casablanca?
Only a fantastic movie.
Should I
It's
just
not a
keep
millennial
going?
thing
It's a
because
Humphrey
we weren't
Bogart
even
movie.
born when,
No.
when
Who is in that?
Casablanca was
Why would
over.
I have ever seen that movie? It
It's
was
a
in
classic.
1943.
It's
I
like-
was
it's like
born in
one of the
40
greatest
years
films ever
after
made.
it.
So?
I've seen it.
Just
Yeah.
because it's iconic doesn't mean I'm going to watch
Oh
it.
my god.
But it means you
We
should.
were warned about your lack of pop culture
Yes,
understanding.
yes,
True.
All
And
right.
this is
This is
what if
unforgivable.
I tell you there's a lot of bad Australian accents in it?
I would so
And-
watch it.
and murder.
Yes,
So, okay.
sign me up.
Yeah.
You
All
should go
right.
check out
Go check out
Casablanca.
There's a
Casablanca.
lot of murder.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Sorry,
much murder.
DraftKings. DraftKings customers can also get skin in the game with their new same game parlays. You can combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. And who doesn't love more money? DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. That's obviously my favorite part of the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code PHNX. Bet $1 on any football game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. That's promo code PHNX on this week's DraftKings Sportsbook app, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. 21 and up only, Arizona only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. All right. How about we get into our topic of the day, which I think is going to be a heated but interesting debate, and that is the worst Arizona sports roster moves in history. I'm excited to talk about this,
I am
Depressing of a
not.
topic this is.
I know. Well, of course, the murder host over here wants to talk about what moves murdered franchises.
I mean, I got to be honest, there's been quite a few of them. I was looking through last night, and I was surprised about how many bad decisions the leaders of the sports organizations in the city have made. I know we just talked about the weird contract negotiations going on with DeAndre Ayton right now, but there was a similar type of situation in the past, Espo, with the Suns, and you want to talk about that? Tell us about it.
Similar, not as high stakes poker because the money wasn't a max deal. But back in 2004, in the off season, Joe Johnson was up for a contract extension. Joe had been traded here from the Boston Celtics, who had drafted him, came in as a young guy and showed flashes. Wasn't the Joe Johnson that we think of now, ISO Joe, all the big shots, but he was showing flashes of what he was going to become. Johnson wanted to get a 6-year, $50 million deal from the Suns. And then the Suns and the front office and ownership kind of balked at that. Robert Sarver and Johnson wanted about $5 million in total apart on the deal. Sarver reportedly wasn't comfortable with making another splashy sign after he spent $400 million the summer before. So this would have been the 2004-5 offseason, I believe, when this happened. But he wasn't happy or wasn't sure he wanted to invest that money after spending $400 million on the franchise and $110 combined on Nash and Quentin Richardson. So they made a big splash. That obviously isn't received well by Joe Johnson, who is sitting there going, well, I think I've earned this money. I'm going to stand strong in this. I want that extra $5 million. Plays the next season, goes through all that, and then he's offered what reportedly was a 6-year, $60 million offer from the Suns. So $10 million a year for 6 years, and which was about $30 million less than the max that he could have got. And then Atlanta decides to step in, give him a 5-year, $70 million. So significantly more money. And Joe Johnson said, peace, I don't want to be here. Let me out. Let me sign this. Don't match it. Because much like DeAndre Ayton will be next summer, Joe Johnson was a restricted free agent. The Suns could have matched Atlanta's offer and kept him regardless. But he, after that, in that summer, he said, quote, it's a lot of things, how things were handled last summer, how things were handled this summer. There's been some things that going on that aren't that great. So basically puts it at the feet of them. I felt disrespected, right? So we all know what happens after that, right? The Suns, 7 seconds or less is one of the most entertaining teams, but Joe Johnson goes on to be one of the best closers in NBA history. And if they had him, that roster is I think, unstoppable at that point, because you've got Nash, Amari, Marion, and Joe Johnson locked up long-term on that roster. And even Joe Johnson himself last year on the Cheat Day podcast said, if I stayed with the Phoenix Suns, we'd have at least one title. That haunts me as well, because that's probably the one time I really felt I really had a chance to win a championship. So, yeah, that's a rough one. So even Joe Johnson knows a title likely would have come to Phoenix if they had just ponied up an extra $5 million. This move, the Suns have chased a title for 53 years. We know the heartbreak. Suns fans experienced it firsthand this summer. The heartbreak of not having a title in this town. And that move and $5 million definitely cost the Larry O'Brien Trophy being here in Phoenix, and maybe multiple banners in the rafters. So $5 million seems pretty damn ridiculous in the whole scope of things.
If I could, I'd get up and leave this room right now listening to this, because it's making me queasy.
But I mean, that move affected the franchise in more ways than one, besides not even making it to the finals. I mean, obviously, we don't really know if they would have, but there was like a lot of effects on the franchise, even like for years after that, too. Well,
that was the beginning of the Robert Sarver's a cheapskate kind of
Correct.
movement.
Yep.
And you know, and Sarver was an inexperienced owner. He thought he could, you know, make wine out of water, apparently. And that wasn't the case. And the reason why he felt like that was largely because they had Steve Nash in the fold, and Steve Nash made a lot of dudes a lot of money and made a lot of dudes look really, really good. And because of that, they thought they could just replace Joe Johnson with somebody else. But you can't replace talent like that. It came to fruition multiple times. They came so close so many times. And if you had another scorer like Joe Johnson, that probably would have put them over the top. But they didn't. And they never came close.
And I wonder how much negotiating tactics in business and negotiating tactics in sports are significantly different.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And I wonder how much that came into play early on, that the approach is, yeah, I know how to negotiate, and this is what I'm willing to do, and so be it. Walk away from the table. The problem is, if you repeat that behavior multiple times, is when it becomes problematic. And that's what a lot of Suns fans are worried about right now, is
with DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, it's and
PTSD.
And I don't say that lightly, because I know that's a very serious thing for people, but in a sports sense, it is very much PTSD. Yeah. That it is, you know, Suns fans now are sitting here going, oh my gosh, it feels very much like the past, and you've done nothing. You know, I hear you say things have changed, but have they really? And this is another opportunity to prove they have, and it hasn't gone off the rails yet, but that's where the thinking is.
Yeah.
This is still very much an open wound for Phoenix Suns fans, and that's what's going on right now. And that reputation that started in this moment with those $5 million has perpetuated since 2004
till this day.
And you know, and yeah, certain things have happened. Trading for Chris Paul and re-signing him shows that, you know, you're willing to spend the money. But this is the next step, because this is a young core you're trying to keep together, who has a legitimate shot at winning a title. And it feels like you're going to be arguing over semantics.
Yeah.
Because in the end, he's going to get this max deal from somebody.
They're arguing over essentially totals and points per game averages and things like that in his contract, right?
Yeah, or how many all NBA teams do you make to get this 30% kicker? Or are you an all defensive player? Or, you know, all those kind of things.
Again, things that we could see, you could hear on our other podcasts for 40 minutes, because we basically gave 30 minutes of that away in this section. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, Suns Twitter was in disarray yesterday after that Woj bomb dropped. People were really upset, which I think is also justified, because obviously something is not going right. If DeAndre Ayton's agent feels like he needs to whether leak that information to Woj or whatever it is to get that tweet to come out to upset Suns fans, to get Suns fans to rally around the fact that they're not giving DeAndre Ayton what he thinks he deserves. So, I mean, obviously that must be triggering for Suns fans, because they went through something similar in that situation with Joe Johnson.
Well, just imagine if social media had been around during this Joe Johnson stuff. Like, we think things get contentious now, but that was I think that would have been next level at that point too.
I don't think they would have made the move that they did if had they
had that public pressure.
had social media been a thing at that point.
Yeah,
which is what's happening now.
I tend to think that's probably right. And yeah, so strategic move, and I think it's the right one going on with DeAndre Ayton. But you look at the aftermath of everything that happened then, and I think this even bleeds into how Sean Marion felt later on about not being, respected enough by the organization. I think this is a starting point for a lot of things right here.
I would definitely agree with you.
So do I win? Can we just?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Not quite, because we need to hear from Saul and Saul's nomination for the Arizona Cardinals and what their worst roster move in their history was.
Yeah, there's a few, but the one that sticks out the most was kind of the end of an era anyway. In 2011, they traded Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie and a second-round pick to the Philadelphia Eagles for one Mr. Kevin Kolb, who was the backup to Donovan McNabb in Philly. And then Michael Vick, I believe, came into the fold, and then they had a little bit of a quarterback competition, and they bounced Kevin Kolb for the second-round pick. He comes to Arizona. There was a lot of excitement, and remember, they had just lost Kurt Warner a season ago. In this last year, they were trying to find another quarterback to fill those shoes, and Matt Leinart wasn't going to be that guy. And so they traded for Kevin Kolb. Kevin Kolb had an okay season in 2011, but in 2012, he was in a quarterback competition with John Skelton. Skelton won the quarterback competition, but before the season started, he got injured, and Kevin Kolb comes in. They go 4-0, and then in the fifth game of the season, he gets his brains beat in by the Rams, and that was basically the end of that, because he wasn't healthy again. I think he only played 2 more games for the rest of the season. And then Ken Wisenhunt ended up getting fired. John Skelton, Max Hall, like the long list of Ken Wisenhunt quarterbacks that he tried to replace not only Kurt Warner with, but also Kevin Kolb with. Just, Kevin Wisenhunt, for as much as of a quarterback guru that he seemed like with Kurt Warner, he was as much a quarterback killer during his tenure for sure. And Kevin Kolb, that was to me, that was the one transaction where I'm like, man, you really kind of crapped the bed on that one. And then Arians comes in. They want no part of Kevin Kolb. They release him, pay him like $2 million, or before they owe him $2 million. They release him, and then Keim also replaces Rod Graves, who was the GM at the time, because Rod Graves had put together such a masterful roster. And Keim comes in, trades for Carson Palmer, and they go on a little bit of a run for the next 3 or 4 years. So,
to be fair, they did say Drew Stanton was going to be their starter. Remember that offseason? Before they finally got Carson Palmer.
You can talk all the things you want, but once you put something on the field, then that's when I'm going to judge it.
Thank God they put Carson Palmer on that field.
Do you think the decision to bring him in was just solely based out of, I guess, a desperation mode of having to?
Because Ken Wisenhunt didn't know what the hell he was doing.
Yeah.
Like he basically thought that he could make anybody a good quarterback, which he could make Matt Leinart a good quarterback. And so that's why they had to go to an old Kurt Warner, who ended up, obviously taking them to the Super Bowl in one of the great seasons in Cardinals history. But that was because Kurt Warner's the GOAT, not because Ken Wisenhunt is just a genius.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there was a lot of things about Ken Wisenhunt and his tenure that he just could not put together a good quarterback room. The quarterbacks that they went through, oh, man, the list is ugly and it's long.
Derek Anderson.
Oh, my
Skelton,
look,
Hall.
the Kevin Kolb thing, he was in that long list of guys who are really good when they come in as a backup and spot duty, whether a guy's injured or, whether they're in cleanup duty, and they look really good.
Yeah, he was one of those guys.
Yeah, then people fall. Scott Mitchell, another guy I believe that falls in that category. But people fall in love with these guys, and I was one of those. I thought, finally, they're gonna have a younger quarterback that they can grow with. Kurt Warner. I mean, there's been you always see that Browns jersey with all the names of the quarterbacks before they got Baker Mayfield. The Cardinals were just as bad with quarterbacks in that time, and I looked at it. I was like, oh, great, young guy has potential. Finally, Man, was I wrong.
I bought his jersey, I think 3 games into that 4-game win streak.
Oh no!
I still rock his jersey
Yeah.
T-shirt.
Oh,
I have that.
no.
The only other transaction, in my opinion, was really the lack of a transaction, I should say. And I think this is one that Cardinals fans will probably point to as the most egregious error because of what ultimately happened with said player was the passing of Adrian Peterson and drafting Levi Brown in the first round. And Adrian Peterson, obviously one of the greatest running backs in NFL history. And Levi Brown played 4 or 5 seasons with the Cardinals, and then we never heard from him again. So that was a rough one, especially when you look at them making the Super Bowl the year after they take Levi Brown and pass up Adrian Peterson. They have Edgerrin James in the fold. And I think that's something that people kind of forget is that they had Edgerrin James, and he had a really solid first year with the Cardinals. So they didn't feel like that was a position of need. They needed somebody on the offensive line. That's why they took Levi Brown. But when you look at it in hindsight, you're like, oh, man. Yeah. And people were clamoring for Adrian Peterson at the time, too. It wasn't just because it was in the moment and they had Edgerrin James, because they were like, man, could you imagine having Edgerrin James and Adrian Peterson in the backfield at the same time? Yep. Holy crap. That team might have won 12, 13, 14 games, especially in year 2 when they lose to the Saints in the second round of the playoffs. And Kurt Warner basically ends his career because he gets knocked to like last week.
They killed him in that game.
Yeah, but if you have Adrian Peterson in that game, everything instead of Hightower. As much as I like Hightower, he was just
we were
that
hyped
dude.
for Hightower for a minute.
All the things change after that.
Well, imagine that offense: Kurt Warner,
Larry Fitzgerald,
Anquan Bolden, Adrian Peterson.
You guys are killing Derek
Steve
over
Preston,
here.
the worst.
Derek's about to cry.
Like they had Todd Heap. They had Todd Heap the second year.
That's
Oh
right.
man, so many cool things that would have been cool.
All right, so you mentioned 2, but which one are you sticking with?
I'm gonna go with Cobb because Cobb was a train wreck. At least we got to the Super Bowl, despite the fact that we didn't take Adrian Peterson.
Right
after that.
The Edgerrin James point is a great point because we were really excited about him, and he was a superstar at the time.
Remember, he said, I can't wait to take the top off this stadium like a convertible.
That's right.
I still remember that like that.
All right, so Saul had 2 to pick between, but one was pretty obvious. Derek.
Oh, man, Derek.
You got a long list, my friend, for the Diamondbacks.
I mean, do we want to do a top 10 list, or do we want to...
Sure, just go ahead and run through them.
No, I mean, I could talk about trading their number 1 draft pick, but at least Dansby Swanson didn't
Max Scherzer
didn't be... There's so many players you can say, like, especially players that they let go and moved on from. I think that became a common theme with Diamondbacks players, including up to this day with Robbie Ray and how well he's been doing with the Toronto Blue Jays. But I will say for me, it was more of their acquisitions that bothered me. It was some of the names. And to be honest, Madison Bumgarner might have fallen into this category as well had he not turned things around so significantly this year compared to last year. 2 come to mind, Russ Ortiz being one. But for me, still the biggest one is Yasmani Tomas. You guys remember Yasmani Tomas? I bet you don't.
I remember a $68 million contract.
$68 million contract.
I remember he had a great walk-up song.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Yasiel Puig was so big for a minute in baseball that it literally caused a fad of trying to sign unproven Cuban players that teams had to pay a significant tax for on top of what they paid them as a contract. So the Diamondbacks paid more than the $68 million for him. He was by far one of the worst players in history to hit 30 home runs. I think only 3 players historically had a worse B-WAR than him that hit 30 home runs. He smashed the ball, but he was terrible defensively, and he just slowly went downhill. I mean,
he was slow.
He was. There was nothing about him. They tried to play him at third base. They tried to do anything that they could to at least, utilize him. He had in his final 3 years of his contract 6 at-bats at a major league level, 0 for 6 and 6 at-bats.
I could have done that for
I could do that any day.
Fraction of the cost.
If you would have paid me that much money, I'll walk out there and take a swing.
I mean, you can say a lot about all the different moves these teams have made, right? But at one point, these players impressed them at some level in the sport, in the major league version of the sport, enough to either make that decision or not make that decision.
That scout must have been drunk.
You know what I mean? Like,
how bad is that? This guy gets $68 million, and comes in and can't do anything.
Well, and I mean, especially that part, we're a National League team, so there's no DH option. If they
That's
were
what I was
just
about to
looking for a
say,
guy
like,
to smash the
He would have
ball,
been great as a DH.
sure, but you have to do the other side of it. And I think they couldn't even rely on him as a designated hitter. He didn't have great numbers in Reno, which everybody does. He just played consistently up there. But and I mean, if you look at his career numbers with the Diamondbacks, they're not terrible, but his defensive numbers are so bad that they drag down his 266 batting average in the major leagues, and it just makes him a player that you can't utilize. Right now, he's hitting 185 for Rochester in the Washington Nationals AAA system. I mean, he's still not old. He's still not over the hill at this point as far as his career is concerned, but he's definitely not a productive, player anymore. It's just, it was such a weird swing and a miss. I still don't know how Dave Stewart got this organization to spend so much money so wildly at times as if they had it. I know that's kind of what the Diamondbacks have been built on at times, right? I've talked about it at length on our podcast, but the Diamondbacks knew that they had to spend money to make this team popular quickly so that fans would be attracted to it. And then they did exactly what they intended to do. They won a World Series, but people don't want to go through these years and years and years of teams being bad. And, even when they try to spend money lately, they don't seem to spend money
They don't
in
do
the
it
right
very
way.
smart at
Right.
all.
Even the Madison Bumgarner deal.
You just got rid of a big, large contract in Zach Greinke to get Madison Bumgarner,
Just to get Madison
which are
Bumgarner.
basically the same player age-wise, except Mad Bum has been to the World Series like 3 times and won the World Series 3 times. So he looked like a stud at some point, right?
Yeah.
Whether Zach Greinke's never gone to that level. But Zach Greinke right now is a better pitcher than Madison
Sure.
Bumgarner.
Way better pitcher.
So why even do that trade? You know what I mean?
Right.
And Zach Greinke wasn't awful when he got traded. He was solid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it just kind of goes to show you what has happened with this franchise specifically. When they trade players away for whatever reason, especially pitchers, they seem to go on and do way bigger, better things. Max Scherzer, I still can't get over that one.
Yeah.
I still can't get over that
And
one.
I mean, the thing about it was he became so good after he left. And like mine personally is Robbie Ray, because that one just baffles me. I don't even think the Diamondbacks were impatient with Robbie Ray. It's just the minute he left, he got significantly better. And it's just crazy. It can't just all be coaching, but it feels like a lot of it has to be the coaching.
Let's be honest with ourselves, though. He didn't get significantly better right when he got to the Blue Jays, but the year after that,
Correct.
he was
Right.
he's been really good this year.
Right.
Because when he first got to the Blue Jays, we would watch the scores and we'd watch the highlights and be like, oh, there's Robbie Ray.
He was getting the strikeouts, but he was still his old
still
self.
only
I
going
used
four
to call
innings.
him
4 or 5 innings.
I used to call him Robbie 4 innings.
Yeah. Now
The
his name
max he
is
could go.
Robert Raymond. Put some respect on his name.
Let me ask this. Would you bring up how the Diamondbacks operated early on, and it kind of set the tone for the way their spending's gone, but would you rather be the Tampa Bay Rays over the time since they came into the league, or the Diamondbacks?
I don't know. That's a good question, because at least the Tampa Bay Rays have had several stints of being competitive, and I mean, like, being really good in a tough division over there as well. I don't know. I think the Diamondbacks knew exactly what was going to happen here because of Jerry Colangelo's experience with the Valley.
But
the Rays have been better for longer stretches than the Diamondbacks.
I agree.
Yeah.
and have been on a low budget.
Mhm.
They've
Yeah.
done it
Sure.
fiscally responsibly. But the weird thing is, they both are in the same exact spot with fans. They
Yeah.
cannot
That's true.
draw fans.
Yeah.
But I tell you this much, I would never go to Tropicana Field. That place is just an awful field, and I have no interest. You talk about Chase
Baseball's
Field.
baseball. What?
Yeah.
It's on an island, for Pete's sake. It's so hard to get to and get out of. Like, it's just a terrible stadium. And
It's for
but-
St. Pete's.
But I'll say this: they
I see what you did there.
There we
I
go.
got that reference.
There's a lot of stadiums in sports that are in horrible locations
yes, that's true.
that people still go to.
How
Yeah.
about
It's-
Oakland when the Warriors played there? They had great fans in that building, and it was a dump in a crappy area.
The A's the same way. Like,
Yeah, I
it's
was
a
about to say
dump,
the
but people
Coliseum.
show up.
Right.
Not as much in a football stadium that you want them to, but it's a football stadium for crying out loud.
I say that the Diamondbacks' immediate World Series championship success kind of set a really high bar. From that
Yeah.
point on, it's kind of like, when are they going to be this good anymore? Versus at least the Rays kind of had what the Diamondbacks were going for initially, which was, we're going to grow our farm system. It's going to take us a little while, and things are going to, we'll get some young players and we'll develop them, and that's how we'll go. We'll have like a 7-year plan. And literally the attrition of 6,000 plus season ticket holders in the first season completely canceled that plan and changed everything.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like, if you're going to stick to a plan, if you're going to come up with a plan and you say, okay, we're a small market team and we're going to do this, even though Phoenix is not really a small market team, that still baffles me to this day. But you're operating like a small market team with the budget that you have, then you have to be all in on that. And the problem with the D-backs is they're all in for like a year, 2, maybe 3, and then they go right back to, man, we need a big splash because we're almost there, and it fools them into thinking that they need to make all these moves, and then they give the farm away, and then they got to start all over again after they have the 1 year, that one flash, so they get to the playoffs or the wild card or whatever, and it's all over again. Now we're in the middle of this rebuild cycle all over again. It's going to take us another couple of years to get back to anything that resembles competitive.
And what you're saying is so true, because it's the entire history of this team. I interviewed Travis Lee one time, and I was surprised that he had such bitter feelings towards the organization, but it was because of that pivot. He, as a young player, was told, like, you're going to be a big part of this franchise. We're going to take our time. We're going to develop young players, all of this stuff. And the next thing you know, he's being traded. For Kurt Schilling, and he felt like he was sold a. But I'm just saying though, like it's that all in attitude where they changed from that 7-year plan to being like, nope, 99. That was the biggest turnaround in baseball history from 98 to 99 as far as a win-loss record.
I get those kind of moves though. Like, if you're looking at a Travis Lee who ultimately didn't really do much in his career.
Sure.
Okay, if you're looking at a Travis Lee and you're like, okay, well, we have him. And we see some good things, but maybe he's not the superstar that we thought he was going to be. And we legit could have a superstar come in here and change the game for us. Like, you make that move, and I totally get that. But to your point, if you're going to build something from the floor up, you can't bail on it when things get a little rocky. Like, I don't care if you have 5 people in the stands. If this is your plan and you're committed to it, then you got to commit to it all the way through. I don't feel like they're ever committed to it. They get to these little escalators, and then they think, oh, man, I want to jump off of this level because it's really cool. And then they have to go all the way back down and start all over again.
Yeah. Shoots and ladders, my favorite game.
There you go.
Shoots and ladders. Diamondbacks are playing the games of shoots and ladders.
Let me just ask really quick, do you think we ever see Yasmani Tomas in a Major League Baseball game again?
No, I don't. Okay. Absolutely not. He's not showing any kind of potential right now at a minor league level. And honestly, he got the money. That I think sometimes
dude could retire and have the best.
We called him the King of Reno. Like, he was running things.
He could walk away now, and as long as he isn't financially irresponsible, could live the rest of his life very comfortably.
Well, and this comes around to like the DA contract and other things in sports, right? Where I honestly feel like a lot of contracts should pay the man if the man reaches those goals, reaches certain levels of being an all-star, a Pro Bowler, whatever the sport is, right? I think that like a lot of contracts should be incentive based, because when you pay someone $68 million out of the gate, what incentive do they have to be good? I mean, they really don't. They're on a 6-year locked in contract that should be given to like the top tier of guys in the sport.
That drives me nuts though. Why should they be good? Because they're getting paid to be good.
Sure.
Like, I don't understand the mental standpoint of, well, I got the bag now. Now I can just slack off. I'm good. I'm not gonna try to get better at my craft. I do not understand that in any walk of life. I do not understand,
because people are driven by money.
I don't think that's what's happened to Yasmani Tomas. I just think that he showed some flashes of things that he might have been good at, and the Diamondbacks drank the Kool-Aid, and they were like, "Oh yeah, let's go." Because I agree with him on the heels of. What's the guy's name from LA Dodgers? Why can I not think of his name?
Yasiel Puig.
Oh, Puig. Oh, yeah,
Puig. Yeah, not Kershaw. With Puig, he was a sensation, and people wanted to catch that kind of lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And so the Diamondbacks went into that funnel. They got somebody who they thought was going to resemble something like that, and they overpaid, and they screwed themselves. So I don't feel like it's necessarily like Tomas's work ethic or whatever, even though I did hear about work ethic being an issue. But sometimes you just don't have that talent.
Yeah.
And you go bust your ass as much as you want. You still ain't going to be that good.
But stuff like that happens all the time. I mean, look what happened with Brock Osweiler in the NFL.
Yeah.
Dude got paid so much money and sucked so
I'm
bad.
so glad that you dragged the Sun Devil.
But I'm just being honest. He was horrible. He never deserved any of the money that he was given, and I'm so
U of A guy over here, by the way.
Sun Devil.
I don't understand to this day why they gave that man so much money, and I never will. But it happens in all. It's not just that was a one-time thing. Like, it happens all the time.
They didn't even do that just for Yasmani Tomas. They gave a bag to Yon Lopez too. He was another guy that was an unproven Cuban player, and it was just, again, it was that at that time it was like, hey, however many of these young, amazing arms from Cuba that we can't really see. It's a secret as to what's going down there. You know, is a wild prospect.
It's so bizarre to me. Like, I get it. Brock Osweiler showed flashes playing in the NFL, right? That's why he got paid on potential that was shown at times in the NFL.
Hey, he lived life to it his fullest.
Yeah. You pay Yasmani Tomas out of Cuba that you haven't seen play at the highest level, and you give him $68 million. That's a real gamble. Like, that's insane
it's
to
crazy.
me that happens. But Mac, I joked, was I the winner? But I think at the end we're all losers.
Yeah,
because
we've all lost
absolutely.
this discussion.
But at least you got to see some gruesomeness. You like murder.
I love
Yeah,
it.
you love
I love
murder,
watching
and
this
this
happen.
was
All right, let's wrap this up really quick by giving you a recap. So Joe Johnson in the Suns, Kevin Cobb in the Cardinals, Yasmani Tomas in the D-backs. Those are our nominations. We're going to make a poll, put it on Twitter so that you guys can vote and tell us what you think was the worst roster move in Arizona sports history. If you're not following us at PHNX_sports, go do that now. Before we get to our very last segment, which is Who Won the Week, I'm really scared, you guys. I have to tell you about Manscaped, and I really don't want to.
Let's go. That's not the way to get into it.
Give me that read. I want
This
to
is
hear
going to
it.
be so awkward. Everybody cover your ears that's listening right now. I'm about to cry.
This is the sponsor. Do not cover your ears. We need you to listen.
Okay.
Yeah, we need you to
Go to
buy
manscaped.com.
Don't cover your ears and then go to manscaped.com and use code PHNX. Okay, here we go. All right. Do you guys know what's spookier than seeing a black cat on Halloween?
Don't have to say
What's
that.
spookier than seeing a black cat on Halloween?
What's spookier?
Yeah.
Having 2 hairy full moons.
No.
And some nose hairs in your face.
Thank you. Okay. When it comes
I couldn't
to
figure that one out. How many people are involved in this? If there's 2 hairy moons and nose hair.
Why are you asking that kind of a question? What kind of soiree are you at right now?
I want to know what the yad is.
No.
Okay.
No.
There's nothing spooky.
Oh my gosh.
2 hairy full moons.
Don't look me in the eye when you read this.
Joe,
All right. When it comes to below the waist grooming, get your man to shave his pumpkins.
Again,
Who wrote this?
hairy pumpkins. Where are you shopping?
I don't know where these hairy pumpkins.
All right, get your man to shave his hairy pumpkins this Halloween because Manscaped is here to upgrade his grooming experience. Go from a bite-sized candy to a king-size candy bar.
We on the Sun show today. We went into a full breakdown of how that even makes sense.
I just want everybody to be clear out there. I did not write this script, and as the GM, I'm just sitting here saying, "Listen, this is an ad read, and I'm not forcing her to do this against her will."
Okay. Get him to join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with code PHNX. Unlock his confidence with the Performance Package 4.0. Inside, you'll find the holy grail of men's grooming items. They've made it easier for him to upgrade his grooming routine. Again, get 20% off and free shipping with code PHNX at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with code PHNX at manscaped.com. Say trick or treat to his beautiful new Halloweeny.
I want to know what his confidence was locked in. What
Halloween. Oh my god. That's hilarious.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm
Well
so
done,
sorry.
Makayla.
You all
Good
have to
job,
listen to
Makayla.
that.
Nicely done.
Get that package for your package.
Oh my god, my face is like 8 shades of red. Okay, holy cow, that was horrible. But go to manscaped.com and use code PHNX. All right, quickly, we're going to do Who Won the Week. You each get a minute to tell me why your team won the week. Derek, since you did it last week and these two didn't, I'm going to let you go first and give us a good example. I don't really know you'll have much to go on, but we're going to try. Ready? Go.
The Arizona Diamondbacks won this week because I guess they won their final series of the year and have something positive to pat themselves on the back for. They lost the number 1 overall pick, which I'm thrilled about, and it could potentially be Elijah Green, which is a franchise-altering player. So sure, let's say that they won by having something to build on by beating the Colorado Rockies in a 3-game series at home to end the series. Yep, they won.
So the premise of this is we lie?
What else do I have to go on? I will say congrats to Lovello for sticking around, and I hope that they do clean house on the coaches. And I would love to see some new coaches brought in and see what they can do with the potential of this team. No more pitchers going off and being great elsewhere.
Nice. Good job. 48 seconds. All right, Saul, you think you got it?
Yeah, I think I got it.
Go.
All right. So I would go with the Cardinals because they were really awesome this week. However, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to give it to another team because the Phoenix Mercury are right here on the precipice of a possible WNBA finals. I feel like Espo was going to say that, but I stole his thunder.
Nice.
That's why I'm going with this.
Good
and
job.
Diana Taurasi dropping 37 the other night, being unbelievable like she is. Brianna Turner having a phenomenal game of 23 the other night. The Suns supporting the Phoenix Mercury and the entire Valley kind of rallying around the Mercury. I think everything that they're doing is trending in such a positive direction for not only women's basketball, but for women in general. And they deserve the love. The Suns are going to play on their court this afternoon. And then the Mercury are going to take the same court and try to secure a win to go to the WNBA final. So the Phoenix Mercury won the week.
Let's go.
Nice. 51 seconds. Watch the game tonight. They're playing the Las Vegas Aces. Go support our women. They deserve it. Ready, Espo?
Yes.
Go.
Makayla Perkins won the week
by
reading the Manscaped ad
my
and not passing out from laughing so damn hard. No, the Phoenix Suns won the week because there's an old adage that any press is good press as long as they spell your name right. Well, the Suns are being talked about a hell of a lot right now, and their names getting spelled right and drugged through the mud at the same time.
Correct.
So look, I think they win the week simply because they're relevant now, even with DA, but they're about to embark on defending the Western Conference Championship. They're playing the first game today, Wednesday, in front of their home crowd since the finals. It's an exciting time, even with contractual stuff. Devin Booker came back to camp from COVID on Monday. There's a lot looking up for the Suns, but yeah, Makayla won the week.
Thank you. Thank you for reveling in my embarrassment
So
with
who
me.
won?
I think I need to go with Saul and the Mercury.
Yeah.
She looks right at me. She's like, he
I
gave me a
appreciate the
compliment,
pandering.
but I'm going with Saul.
Yeah.
I
Who
appreciate
stole
the
what I was
pandering.
gonna
You kind of screwed yourself by saying Makayla because she knew she couldn't pick herself
She
to
could.
be the winner of the week.
If she's
Because that would be very egotistical
Yeah,
of her.
I can't
I
do
would have
that.
done it. I would have done it.
You set
I
her up
would've
for
too.
failure, Espo.
I would have too.
And she
Derek.
didn't fall for the bait.
Well, you really set him up for failure.
I did.
Yeah.
Because you were supposed to go with the Cardinals, and you went away for basketball.
I
I
was
guess
like,
I could have gone Cardinals, but I felt like I had to stick
It's
to the
okay. I
rules.
appreciate the pandering, Espo. It made me feel better.
Good.
If you think DraftKings had a line on who could bet on who won the week, who do you think they would have a line on?
Oof.
Who do you think they would say
Saul
would be the
for
favorite?
shrewdness.
Yeah.
Would be,
Yeah.
Yeah.
a plus 1,500, I think.
Without a
on
doubt.
that.
Yeah.
I would take that.
Do you guys have
Minus 1,500.
Derek would have been plus a 50,000 for
Yeah,
that argument.
Sure.
anyway.
I mean,
because
A,
it's
Yeah.
mi-
not-
It was
a
bad.
minus 1,500 on Saul there.
I don't believe in anything I say.
That's okay. Do you guys have any?
We got some great clips for today. We've got I Love
no.
Murder and I Don't Believe Anything I Say that we can utilize on people.
In that
That's
entire
great.
Manscaped read. That, I know that's going to come back to haunt me. But thank you guys so much for joining us today on the
Not like a
Phoenix.
Halloweeny.
Oh my God.
Shave your hairy pumpkins.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on the Phoenix Sports Podcast. Make sure you go check out gophnx.com. You can have, if you become a member, you can have access to all of our amazing written content, exclusive video content, all of our podcasts, and more. Also, if you become an annual member, you'll get a free t-shirt. So go check out gophnx.com. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening to this audio-only version, make sure you go to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us a good review on this podcast. Don't forget to follow us on social media, and we will see you next week.
Pay DA his money.